Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. So today we're on episode 5 of Cloak and Dagger. And it was a really interesting episode today, so we're gonna get right into it. As always, if you are new to our channel, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and also hit the bell for notifications for every time we do a new video.
So, episode 5 of Cloak and Dagger. What did you think?
I liked it. We got to dive deeper into both of what they're both personally going through as far as their personal tragedies, so it was really interesting.
Yeah, I think a couple things that I took away from this episode was, one, we got a deeper dive into, one, we got to see them use their powers more so Tandy using her powers willingly. So that's kind of where we're getting, I think with this episode, we're getting to see like Tandy kind of start taking her first couple of steps into figuring out this whole Roxxon Corp thing and how that affects, her dad and I guess in a way, her path to justice. Whereas with Tyrone, in this episode, we still kind of get a little bit more backstory to his personal tragedy and everything that he's been going through. And we kind of get to see him take some steps forward, more so like in his personal journey, I would say.
Yeah.
In that case. So for those of you guys who have been able to see the episode, I thought it was really cool. Like, I always find it really cool when Tandy and Tyrone get to interact because they are so opposite of one another and you don't realize how opposite they are. Well, you know how opposite they are, but it really comes to the forefront when they have to interact with one another.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see how they were able to, because last time we saw them in the last episode, they did not end their conversation on good terms. They had a really great conversation, but then it ended on really, really bad terms.
It did.
So to see Tandy kind of just show up at Tyrone's school and kind of just be like, hey, I'm here and I need a favor. And more so than that, like, Tyrone not being so petty to where he's just like, nah, like, this, that, and the other. Like, that's where, to me, like, it really speaks to their potential future relationship. Because when you really care about somebody and somebody's really important to you, you don't kind of let that type of stuff linger too long. You get over it very quickly. So I thought even in like that little bit, it was like a really cool moment to see their characters grow in their relationship together. I think Tandy even says, like, for her, it was I don't know if she was joking or being serious, but she's like, it was cool to be able to see Tyrone in his element.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually really cool because we don't get to see Tyrone a lot in school. We've seen him in passing. But this is like one of those few episodes where we get to see how he's perceived by both his girlfriend and by like his teammates and what type of expectations they have for him.
Right.
So that is one thing on Tyrone's end, but with Tandy, we get to kind of go forward and see her going forth and trying to really get as much information as she can about Roxxon Corp and figuring out who was really behind, her father's death. And like I said earlier, we get to see her use her powers kind of at free will, and and which was really cool that she's that comfortable, that she's that free flowing with it, and that she's using, once again, since her powers have two different sides to them. They are, obviously she has the daggers, but she has the ability to see people's hopes. The fact that she's already understood like how to use that part of her powers was really, really cool, and to see how comfortable she was.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think what was even better out of this episode for me was to seeing that had a consequence.
That was crazy. I mean, they already like understand that they're like really connected to each other.
Well, more so Tyrone. It was really cool to see how Tyrone was able to deduce that. And for those of you guys who haven't had to see the episode yet, basically Tandy is at a party, at a Roxxon Corp event, and she's trying to she's going around, basically like touching people and things like that to be able to get an idea of, who's important and who's not, what their hopes and their thing and dreams are, so that she kind of knows who to zero in on. So while she's at a party doing this, Tyrone is at a state championship, trying his best to win the game in that situation, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as she's going through this and using her powers freely, we're seeing that it's having an effect on Tyrone. There's one instance where Tyrone is in the game and somebody passes him the ball and the ball goes like basically right through him. There's another instance where, it was like a jump ball situation where the ref, blew the whistle and they went to get the ball from Tyrone and the ball disappeared. Because Tyrone does have this ability to not only teleport himself, but he can teleport other people and other objects.
I like how nobody really questioned that for real.
Yeah, they kind of just was like, the ball's gone.
Yeah, like, you think balls just disappear?
So that was really cool and eventually Tyrone goes into halftime and he's just looking to like catch his breath because once again, there's some stuff going on with him during this game that we're going to touch on. But he's just, physically and emotionally exhausted.
Right.
And like he typically does with him using his powers, it usually involves, or at least it's always depicted as like him covering his face and putting something over his head. And he immediately shows up at the party that Tandy's at right in front of her.
Yep.
And like you were saying, he immediately understands what is happening. Like he deduces it so quick. Like you're up here using, she told him that's what she was going to be doing. But he's like, you're up here using your powers and it's having an effect on me. It's having an effect on my powers and it's causing my powers to go out of control. And I think him being able to teleport directly to her even showcased how, they don't really touch on it too much. They don't talk about it much, but like just how connected they are. That if his powers start going out of control, he immediately goes to her. He could have teleported anywhere, as we've seen Tyrone's powers do, but he teleported directly to her. And normally when Tyrone teleports, especially in this episode, he teleports places where he's like, that's where his mind is at. Exactly. His mind wasn't on Tandy, but yet he ended up near her. So I thought that was really cool. And that's pretty much what we see from Tandy. Tandy's going around touching different executives, and she finally finds the person that she's looking for. She gets the face of the person that she's looking for, and she starts remembering that it's the same man that we saw in episode 1 who was basically taking everything from their family and saying that they wouldn't get any type of insurance payments and that basically they were stripping everything from her family. Yeah. She finds out that it's the exact same person. And later in the episode, we basically kind of see her come very close to getting revenge. But I think it's interesting that she doesn't go all the way, like go through with it all the way. And I wonder if that had anything to do with what she was probably preaching to Tyrone.
Maybe.
Because she also uses her powers on him to see his hopes, and his hopes are very dark.
That was morbid.
He's all about making money at the cost of others. He doesn't care about who he has to step over to do that.
Yep.
So technically Tandy would have been justified in a weird sense to go forward with that, but I do think because she's the more focused one, I would say right now she's the more emotionally stable one, which is kind of hard to say because they're both emotionally unstable.
That's really sad.
Yeah, but I think when it comes to things like acting out rationally with violence, Tandy seems to be a little bit more rational, since seeing as she was the one who was able to provide Tyrone with advice. So I wonder if that's one of the things that probably went through her head of why she didn't go forward with it.
Maybe.
So that's pretty much Tandy's entire involvement in this episode. Tyrone, on the other hand, like I said, his journey is way more personal, and I always enjoy the way that I really enjoy the way that they're presenting Tyrone in this episode. And in this episode, we get to see a number of different levels of relationships that he's had that they honestly could have left out, and I would have never wondered about it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they took time out to look into it, I really appreciate it. It proved to have actual weight to it. And what I'm talking about is the day that Tyrone's brother died, Tyrone's brother had 2 other friends with him. And up until this point, we had never heard from these guys. They had never mentioned him. And I was kind of okay with it. I would have been perfectly fine if they had never mentioned them again. But by Tyrone getting ready for this state championship, by him looking at this picture of him and his brother, he starts to remember these guys. And he's just, kind of wondering where they are and things like that. And his mom is even telling him, yeah, they had a dream to win a state championship and you have this opportunity. And through Tyrone thinking about all of that and looking at this picture, once again, his powers go out of control and he teleports directly to his brother's old friend, who he hasn't seen since that day.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because, like I said, we get to see another element of Tyrone. But once again, I feel like every person that Tyrone runs into, he's always getting a certain level of advice. And his brother's friend provides him with the same type of thing, of providing with advice, of understanding that once things happen, you have no choice but to move forward.
Right.
And to kind of just take advantage of the different opportunities that are before you. And so I think we're really going to see that in this season going forward, of Tyrone being able to, whether it's with his powers and both with trying to get justice for his brother, of understanding, look, I can't dwell on it so much that I'm angry about it, but I have to be able to use what's in front of me to make the best out of my situation.
Right.
So that's one element of Tyrone's relationships that we see evolve. Another element is his romantic relationship. And that moved fast. It went from last episode of, I don't really know what she is to me, to I'm gonna give her my varsity jacket and she's gonna sleep over.
Well, he didn't plan that part. She did.
No, and that's a part of her, like, I'm becoming more and more suspicious of her.
You're coming suspicious. She's just a teenage girl.
I don't know.
Hormones.
Like, most girls aren't that aggressive, and she's like, one thing that she said that, like, it sounds good in a sense, but it's also give me cause to pause, which is, I'm always watching you, I'm always paying attention to you.
She said, I'm always paying attention, not I'm always watching. That
It's
sounds
the same,
stalkerish.
it's the same thing, but she's like, I'm always paying attention to you, and it sounds...
Yeah, but you know, she's weird, and she's very in touch with voodoo.
Exactly. So
mean,
there's something about it that makes it feel off. It makes it seem...
She's just in tune with his...
Well, and this is the other thing with Tyrone. This seems to be a pattern in Tyrone's relationships, that there's always a certain level of secrecy to the people that are connected to Tyrone. His dad had a secret. His brother had a secret. Even technically the cop that killed his brother had a secret. So this girl seems very innocent. She seems like she's very into him, but it seems like there could be some ulterior motives. Even Tyrone's brother's friend, we end up finding out at the end of the episode, had a secret that he's working with the cop that killed Tyrone's brother. Like, that they're some sort of partners or something.
And he knows that he killed his friend.
And so Tyrone finds that out at the end with, once again, his powers going out of control.
Shady.
Right. So we get to see, like, his teleporting go out of control. But one thing I like to see, that I really liked about his powers, was during the basketball game. And it's like the last couple seconds, Tyrone has the opportunity to hit the game-winning shot. And instead of taking that shot and making that shot, because Tyrone is known for being a good offensive player, he misses that shot strictly based off of a couple things. One, he was able to see that there was some bias going on in the game. Where Tyrone goes to an all-white school and things like that, he's going against an all-black school, and that school was getting a number of bogus calls. And Tyrone was becoming very aware of it.
Yeah.
And so that was already in the back of his mind. He had touched the ref, was able to see the ref's fears. But then at the same time, as he's getting ready to go through these last couple of seconds to hit this game-winning shot, he's able to see the players' fears. You know, some of them, they're afraid to lose their game because their parents are going to be really upset. There's other people that are going to get, you know, that are being harassed and bullied. There were other people who are afraid because they know if they lose this game that it could possibly point them in a direction, in a lifestyle that they don't want to live, where I think he was like going to the military, and he was terrified to go.
Yeah. So.
And because of all that, Tyrone was able to do something good for them. Obviously not for himself, but it was good for them.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see Tyrone's powers work in a good way. Because I think his powers are so dark and they're so mischievous that it can make it seem like there's nothing good coming out of his powers.
That's true.
So that's just a couple of the things that really stood out in this episode. There was a lot of other things, but if there's things that you guys saw that really stood out to you, please make sure to kind of mention them in the comments. We can start a conversation about it. But that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us today.
Like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.